Let's get into this session. The purpose here is to explore excellence of process and examples of outputs in early phases of the collaboration process continuum. So that's the first three chevrons here in the process continuum: strategic intent, merchandise planning, marketing, and sales. We'll also talk about how you organize for action on technology in addition to those three chevrons. And what I'm going to do is walk through some of this idealized process set that I've put forth the last couple of years in some of our publications, and that will be part of an ultimate process guide that we publish by the end of the year. And Mike's going to contribute on kind of the merchandise perspective and marketing planning side of things too, some techniques that he's been affiliated with over the years. And then we're going to get real world reactions from Ken on all of that stuff. We're going to dive into the Shea way on things here, and then we're going to look at some examples across the country and from different players at standards and options offers and marketing techniques. So that's the flow. So let's talk about organizational approach. So I would say this is in a state of flux. I've had a lot of conversations, some of them with folks here in this room, about how are you organized. There's a mix of even really big companies where there are individual strategists who are taking in a lot of information from the company and the vendor base and making the calls. There are teams out there. Some of those teams are multidisciplinary, so it's not just purchasing. Sales and marketing is included, construction and operations are included, and executive management is included to the extent that you're thinking technology is one of your key strategic differentiators. Some builders have a multi-location strategy. However you're organized, then my question is, what is the work product of either that individual strategist or the group, the team that's working on it? Do you have regular meetings? Do you issue formal plans and reports? How often do you do that? And I think the question is, here's a category tech that's kind of late arriving to the party. Why should we have specialized processes and meetings for technology? We've got all these other categories that are well established as home builders, and some of which are much higher margin. Why would we do this for tech? And I think the answer is it's a different animal, right? It moves faster. You aren't on top of that acceleration in technology to the extent that you might want to be. So it requires special attention, at least at this moment, until we're on top of how quickly that stuff will evolve and we've embedded it into our core processes. So those are some items for consideration. For a big builder, I'm going to recommend that you do have a team approach, that you do have multiple disciplines involved, that you do have multiple locations, because tech is different from one place to another. Ken's made the point before that there's brands and market bands that some of your products and communities serve, and that may even require separate attention. But I think a team that has different perspectives is important, and I think quarterly meetings and formal reports and plans are a good idea, and we have that stuff mapped out in our merchandise and marketing guide. This is from the research, the Builder's Playbook research, and we asked questions around how you're making decisions on technology. And it was interesting, the data point was that there's a team process at the divisional level, but more individual authority exercised at the national level. So that was an interesting data point that Brad and his team came across at Interpret. So strategic intent, and I like to talk about this as the thing that you go through without any of your vendors in the room. This is like, what are we trying to accomplish with technology? And I've broken it down into 3 different facets: customer appeal, competitive factors, and business factors. So I think it's important to go through these questions and just get those answers down on paper before you deeply engage with vendors on merchandise assortment and such. You know, this is where stuff like the Cano model that we've talked about at this event comes into play. I mean, is there a table stakes sort of mentality, and that may be different for different communities and process bands, or are we looking at performance where we're a bit ahead of the pack, or are we looking at the attractive wow sort of factor? I think to have these sorts of concepts in mind from a strategic intent perspective are important. And then moving from the strategic intent to the more practical exercise of merchandise planning. And this is basically, what categories are we going to be in, and how are we going to present that to the buyer, to the consumer? So, you know, we've put forward these different merchandise perspectives, is what we call them, or merchandise dimensions, that can help you do that. One is to take that taxonomy, and this is just the high-level taxonomy. We've got a lot of detail, just to look through that with some basic understanding of the products, like in what's maybe hot and what's not, which categories do we want to play in from a device or system perspective. Other ways to look at this that are more consumer-centric are the second level smart art here. So the taxonomy is kind of features, and we always want to think benefits first when we're talking about the consumer. So we've identified 7 central benefits that technology attaches to. Smart home has become kind of a blanket word for everything that's in the TecHome family, but smarts really is more about a home that is doing some thinking for you, or has macros that are triggering different activities automatically. And that's something that some people want, and something that some people don't want. So that's more of a literal look at smart. We've got healthy on here, and we'll be diving pretty deeply into that when we talk about products and applications here. But there's all kinds of technologies in the air quality, water quality, light, sound space that are ways of delivering healthy home benefits. Connected has been around for a long time. That's about connections within the home. It's about connections through the wide area network to friends, loved ones, information, content, etc. Green, there are many technologies that are going to help you deliver energy efficiency and water conservation efficiency. So that's another one of these benefit buckets. And then we've got entertainment, which is largely about AV and lighting. It's about media enjoyment, and it's also about entertaining of guests and families in a party setting. And then the 7th benefit, which is the latest arriving one, is productive, right? And because we've had this massive demographic shift of people working more and more at home, so the home has to be a place for productivity as well. So that's a way of looking at technology, what your offers are, and how you're going to package them. Room by room, you guys sell your homes as collections of rooms. There's certain rooms that can sell a house just by the fact that that's the room that somebody wants. So there's a way of looking at technology that's room by room, or presenting technology room by room. So each of these rooms has a purpose or a set of activities that are common there. What can technology do to enhance what's going on in these rooms that are purpose-built? And then I think the riskiest perspective is this lifestyle personae. Some folks identify themselves as foodies or movie lovers or what have you. Some folks don't want to be characterized that way. You got to be careful using this perspective, but it's interesting. It's an interesting way to look at this, and I think you're going to dive a little into the personae stuff. But so think about the kind of the canvas that you've got in terms of the products across the categories, and then think about these more consumer-oriented merchandise perspectives. That's how you can methodically decide what you're going to offer and how you're going to offer it.
So the journey is definitely something that we all want to get right. You know, the journey and the experience is very relative to us being able to deliver on expectations and us being able to set the expectation for that customer to not only want them to recommend that builder, you as a builder, to other customers, as well as the entire experience that they've had. Think about an experience, whether you go to a restaurant and you have a nice evening out and it turns out terrific all the way through the evening. It's very centric on all different types of factors through that experience. So it's relative to the food, it's relative to the location, it's relative to the environment and how you're being treated, how you're being interacted with, and all the way through paying the bill and leaving, and someone saying, you know, I hope you had a great evening, come back again. You know, so it's definitely something that we all want to have a full, well-rounded experience. And so the journey is part of making sure that we get those things right along the way. So you can see, you know, I set up this slide to be able to address the personas, the map, the voice of the customer, and the trends. So there's all different things that go into making sure that we get it right. From developing the persona, in this case, we've developed it on a family, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer, the children. They all have input, they all have needs, they all have the ability to speak to the entire purchasing of the home. So you look at the map, it's definitely based on the awareness, your purchasing, the interaction, the advocacy, and then the voice of the customer. This is definitely where you need to be able to listen. You need to be able to capture and document that voice of the customer. So it's perfect to be able to go through an entire experience, but then you also want to hear back from that customer. You also want to hear back from that home buyer to be able to capture what you did well and what you didn't do well, to be able to work on that. And that's all about this customer journey. The industry trends really helps frame this as well. So kind of what's out there, what is being, what are some of the newer technologies? What are some of the newer things that are being requested? What are some of the needs of the family, in this case, that we need to be able to understand? So developing your persona is all about understanding that family. In this case, it's the Hughes family. It's making sure you get all of their details from them, so you can document this, and then you also look at all of the factors that go into their decision making. So who are they? Where do they come from? What's important to them? What are some of the specifics that matter to them as well as a husband, as a wife, as a child, so that you can better understand that entire experience. These are some of the tools also that help you document that. And if you have questions about some of these basic tools, this is just kind of a scraping of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to some of the tools. But if you do have questions, reach out to John, and John will get me to get you some of the information that you may need.
Yeah, I kind of blew the introductions because we wanted you guys to do self-introductions. But Mike, I've known for 15 plus years or so, has experience as an integrator with Sonos, with Legrand, and now with Level. So he's been in this game for a long time and working with builders and integrators to deliver value to the consumer. So I blew that. And then Ken, we're gonna get to, he kind of doesn't need an introduction, especially in Phoenix, but he's the VP of Sales and Marketing for Shea Homes, and probably the guy who I would say is on the leading edge, both in home technology and on the digital transformation side of things. He's a double threat, but I'm thrilled to have you guys on the panel, and I'm sorry I blew that setup.
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
Thanks. One important thing as well, just to know, is at one point during my career also, I worked for a builder, so I have an understanding and I worked for a builder, and I have an understanding of not only the construction process, but what also is important to the builder as an entity, and also working with that customer. So some of the things that you look at and you judge and you measure, whether you're a builder or you're a company that wants to make sure you're doing it right. One thing is NPS, right? It's a Net Promoter Score. I'm sure you've all heard of Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is helpful to understand if you're doing something right or if you're not, but it's very linear. So it doesn't really map that journey. It just knows if you're doing a good job or if you're not really doing a good job. So some of the things that help get beyond that Net Promoter Score are CSAT, so the customer satisfaction. So this is kind of what you'll see mapped out in the journey map that I have laid out in a couple more slides. But this is the persona of the Hughes family, and one of the things you want to be able to identify is the thing that's kind of circled there, is making sure you get the level of confidence with this persona. So how tightly have you gotten this? Is it something that you've pulled together through anecdotal feedback? Is it somebody that you've had an in-depth interview with? Is it based on just a survey? So in this case, this is a high confidence rating. So this is an interview that was done with this family to be able to gather all these points. So here's a example of a journey map. So as you continue to have that interview and you're asking all of the same questions, you're identifying those areas that you do well, the areas that you're meeting the expectation, which is that baseline, and then also the pain points. The pain points are really the areas that you focus on to be able to get that experience into a better place. So you can see there's different stops along this journey, the awareness, the purchase, the installation, use, the advocacy, and they're categorized with the experience and the product. So here's kind of some thoughts on how that journey continues. You'll see some common themes and some pain points along the way that you're able to address and you're able to identify. And I think that's about it for me.
I think the next step, once you've decided kind of what's on the canvas, is what's going to be standard and what's going to be optional. And this is a critical choice. And there was a time when you didn't have number one to think about, which was technology that will delight or satisfy 80% and turn off only 5% of the market. We have those products now with home technology. That wasn't the story 20 years ago or 35 years ago when I started working in this space. We had a lot of things that didn't work. But there are products that work and they have been widely promoted, and folks are either expecting it or they're happy to have it. And those that aren't aware of it just are happy to have the convenience and functionality once it's delivered to them. So those things need to be part of the standard, I would argue. The other thing that needs to be part of the standard is the enabling platforms, which is networking. And I think we all know you need, network infrastructure that's better than the vanilla wireless network that you're getting from your cable service provider, that you need to figure out a way to get. And you've worked with Legrand and the Luxol family of products, but that's just a critical enabling technology for so much of the functionality that you're going to put in that home on a standard and optional basis, and that the system can grow on. And I think the other thing is the power distribution, high quality power distribution, and then a control network that's got the ability to grow to hold a set of applications that are part of your standard, but can also be expanded to deliver optional features. So that should be considered in the standard package. And I'm going to say on, number 3 here, running conduit and just having dark fiber of cable infrastructure, I don't think is sufficient, because you've got to show the buyer with your standard a little bit of that active functionality and benefit for them to appreciate the technology that is going in on a standard basis, and also it sets you up for the option sales where they can expand that functionality or play with other feature sets. This is a lot of data points from our survey that we'll be able to get this deck to you, but there are a lot of different takes on standardization, but more and more builders recognize that there needs to be a strong standard. It could either be brand-based or category-based, but they're making that investment. And this is from the Playbook survey as well, what other builders are telling us are kind of making it into their standards. There's a tier 1. All of this is pretty high. There's a tier 1 that you see listed there with the smart door lock at the very top. Structured wiring speaks to what we were talking about in terms of an enabling platform. The smart home security piece, which we'll be digging in as an application area further. And you see some, it's a long list here, and you see tier 1 and tier 2. So next, it's about how do we go from that, the standard and the and those options to a message platform. I would argue you want to have a message platform to feed your overall marketing efforts. This is a pretty detailed slide with questions that you can ask yourself and answer to establish the message platforms. We've got a data point again from the Playbook that talks about security, comfort, and energy efficiency as kind of go-to messages in terms of realizing lift. I think that's a key concept, right? Is if you're going to make an investment in a standard, you've got to extract the benefits story and make that part of your overall messaging to realize sales lift. There's 2 things we want to do. We want to get lift. We want to sell more homes. We want to sell more homes to better buyers because we've included technology. And then we also, on the marketing side of things, want to make sure we've got the supports to sell through options. So that's easier said than done, right? Because these are not your standard design and finishes options, which it's like see this, touch this, buy this. This is more understand this, experience, buy this. And so that's a different kind of marketing and selling that needs to be done for your technology options than for most of the stuff that's in your portfolio. And I think the other piece that is a challenge and a complication is there's often handoffs involved to the technology integrator where some of the ground is going to be traveled by your team in terms of selling, but there's going to need to be a handoff to either dig in deeper on the functionality or answer questions, or to take folks into more depth on an option that's more complicated than can be presented by your team. So, 2 key factors on the marketing of the options things. One is that understanding, explaining the functionality, and in some cases using demos for folks to experience it, which isn't necessarily required on other options. And then it is the handoffs with the trade integrator as well.
First, oh, I see Alex over there. So your slide that you had up there, you know, you have, so we build in multiple states. We're not that big like the Publix. We're a somewhat large privately held company. But technology has eluded us for years, and really trying to figure out what you deliver to the consumer. And in today's world, I think it's much easier for us because of Amazon, Apple, Google, Alarm.com, Cox. They have marketing out there that is giving insight to consumers what they could potentially have in their home. And as builders, I think it's easier for us to deliver on that promise by manufacturers that resonate with the consumer. If they're looking at a new home, like all of you, if you're buying a new car, you're looking for the new facets of that car, and a lot of them are technology based. But we took a very interesting approach. Started out very myopic with our launch. We just felt like we needed to compete in the marketplace and have some technology offering. We did that for a couple of years. And then Alex, that's why I pointed him out, he led the charge nationwide. Alex, why don't you stand up and wave to everybody, because he can ask you a whole bunch of questions. How do you deal with these unruly divisions in multiple states? But, you know, similar to B2C or B2B, we did a team-to-team approach, taking a look at what was our consumer demographics within specific markets, what products really captured the awareness of the consumer. And so those are, you know, big national products. And really, if you look at home technology and connectivity in a home, you basically, for a consumer level, you have Apple, Google, and Amazon. And then there's a bunch of ancillary products that go with that. And so that was our baseline approach. It was really, how as an organization do we demonstrate to a consumer that we're forward thinking about the livability and the experience that people have in a home. From then, you really have to be a great storyteller. So just like you tell the story of the livability of your home, of your options or upgrades or the features that are included in your home, we really had to be a better storyteller of technology. Fast forward to today, and that was your question. It's a radically different approach. So we have very few technology options because of what Mike talked about. When you interview that customer, you're going to find out that your customers have varied technology, you know, in where they're currently at or what their expectation is for the home. And so today in the Phoenix market, every one of our customer meets with our integrator. We are agnostic to the products. We have Shea Connect. Those are baseline products that come included with the home. The infrastructure to support those products are included with the home. But then that customer, through the interviews that Mike was talking about, our integrators personalize those programs. And so whether it's you on an Amazon Home or a Control4 or a Savant or a Lutron, you know, we offer. Now we build in the Phoenix market in multiple price ranges from, let's say, $400 to $5 million. Across our portfolio, we do multifamily, attached, you know, all different types of products that meet different consumers. And so, you know, it's very varied as you're trying to adopt a program as a builder. You're going to have to look at all of those markets and come together, like Alex channeled us into a room and we made it happen. So kind of an interesting approach, but that's what we did. So standards and then the options are all going to be administered by through the technology integrator design appointment. Yes, so we learned that, we were talking about it earlier when you were doing your interviews at your tables, but you know, the challenge is number one, as you get bigger and you're selling in multiple locations within a specific market, outside of the base price of your home, you're basically a retailer of options. And so you have to be very careful on how you price options. In our market, we could work with 6 different electricians, 5 different integrators, and if we're just applying a margin on that, we had varied pricing. Well, don't kid yourself, your consumer or your customers are traveling between your communities and shopping. And so we really had to spend quite a bit of time. It took us almost probably 2 years, to go through and standardize pricing across our communities, so more like a retailer. And ultimately, if you want to sell options online, you're going to have to really be like a retailer and have unified pricing. So, it was a very interesting approach that we took, and it seems to be paying huge dividends. So, when I say we don't have option codes for technology, we allow our integrator to price everything with the customer, no matter what they want. If you want a Savant home, you meet with that integrator. He picks everything. You can do iDevice switches, Lutron switches, whatever those characteristics are that you want in your home. They print out their invoice at our margin and then just give us the invoice, and we just insert in one option code, it's like technology, and just put in the total purchase price from that integrator. And we've seen huge, I mean, before we'd always have these conversations over and over again about what option and did that integrator give us a price increase on a TV or a receiver or any component inside of the home. And this way it helps us so much better to really mitigate that and ultimately deliver a personalized service to our customer.
So you've pre-negotiated with the integrator your commission rates on this stuff, and as the sales, they come back into your system as through these design appointments, it's coming back into your system?
Correct. So our sales team really talks about, number one, our baseline package really tells the story. If you're an energy efficient builder, you're going to have energy efficient things included in your home, and then you probably have options, to go above and beyond that. So whether that's heating and cooling or water or air quality, the consumer just has to have that confidence and trust that Mike pointed out. When you have that, then it's easier to say, hey, you can meet with these other companies to help personalize, what you want in your home.
In the marketing materials that I pulled from your slides, that is part of your standard offer, or those are the optional pitches? And who develops that, and how is that delivered to the consumer?
So from our Shake Connect package, that's through national. And so that's the story that we tell across the country that, hey, this is the baseline offering that we have. When you get into a division level, you have multiple communities and multiple integrators. So we work hand in hand with those integrators to provide solution-based content. We don't give a lot of pricing out in those. We just want to pique the curiosity of the consumer to say, hey, in-home audio is really cool. Maybe I want to upgrade my Sonos system or my Amazon Dot system to a full integrated system. So we paint that picture with the customer, and so
you've got a lot of entertainment loaded in there. Yeah, I don't know whether you've got that slide.
Oh, yeah. So
next slide after that.
Next slide.
Yep.
So tons of content. A lot of that content's coming from the manufacturer. A lot of that content's coming from the integrator. Many of these are digital assets. So some of our integrators, prior to the appointment, they interview the customer online. They provide content. Again, back to storytelling. They explain the process. So it's a multifaceted process when you purchase a new home, because you're buying the home. If it's a new build, which predominantly that's what we do. We're not a big inventory home builder. But from that customer, you have to pick the plan, the elevation, the home site, the community that best suits your need. And they're really talking about the livability of the home and the price point. From there, you're offering structural options. Then you have a design studio path, which we basically call the surfaces of the interior of the home. Then you go down the path of low voltage, and then we take a separate channel, because mostly it's through our electricians, and all lighting. Not lighting controls, but personalized lighting inside of the home. So we provide a ton of content to our customers for that.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of put the lighting piece in the whole technology scheme of stuff. It's line voltage, but it's part of the technology package in many ways.
Yeah, and for all the high volume builders out there, this is a tough road, because you have multiple electricians, you got multiple low voltage providers. Some of them aren't the best salespeople in the world. And so we spend time understanding who's talking to our customers. Are they articulating not only our brand message, but what the consumer wants? In some instances, we hired a third-party consultant, agnostic to the process, and so they take on lighting and or low voltage. and they provide all the schematics, go through the process with the customers. I sent you some slides on that. It's very fascinating for what Atera does.
Right.
But they actually take a home, create it virtually, and show lighting, and that can be high voltage or low voltage lighting on how it changes the look, the feel, the texture of the home, whether you're entertaining or just living in the home or watching media.
Cool. Thank you for that download. So this is a catalog that Bravis put together for, it's actually Bravis's Baltimore division, Star Home Entertainment, that they put together. So heavy on the entertainment options, but I think does a good job of showing both lifestyle in the setting and the products in an attractive way that looks better than the average cut sheet. It's an 8-12 page brochure. Bravis is here at the event, and some of you will be meeting with them, I'm sure. This is Technology Design Associates, and so I think this is the point, and Ken has integrators doing a lot of the heavy lifting for him on this. This is another situation, Technology Design Associates, and they've worked with the folks at Control4 and have a very nice consumer-facing brochure, and they've done the packaging for the builder, right? So they've thought through a handful of packages. They deliver active benefits. They are more than a vanilla structured wiring system, but there are good asset bases out there from some of the vendors that can be delivered through the integrator partners. This is the Control4 side of things with Technology Design Associates. So Home Pro, I think Kendall's here somewhere in the audience. They're a Texas-based integrator, very much focused on high volume builders, and they've added an electrical division in the last 5 years or so, and really are treating the electrical piece as part of the technology mix as well. And I like these little icons. I pulled them out of something that Kendall showed me because they've got like quick hitter explanations of the benefits of a kind of a module, a subsystem, and I think it's a clever way of marketing. And here's some of the brochures that they've developed, digital and print brochures, where you see the call out of the standard smart homes, 2 standards on the leftmost cuts here, and then some of the clever packaging that they've done. I think you talked about yourself as a retailer, and I see some retail science in what's being done here. This is really clever. All of these offerings are priced at $1,200, so it almost becomes a game. You're looking at 8 different offers, 4 of which are line voltage, 4 of which are low voltage. And you're like, which one's the best value for $1,200? It's a really attractive price point. It's good retail science. Some of the naming conventions, we talked about those lifestyle personae, but they've built that into some of these packages, the entertainer, the networker, the peace of mind piece. So you could see the consumer centricity in the packaging here that they've done. This is excerpts from a 31-page catalog. I really like that there's pricing on all of this stuff. You were talking about the transparency of pricing, and a lot of times you can't put the prices out there because you don't know what they're going to be. But these guys have made it easy for their builder partners, and some of the price points that they've put in place here are darn attractive, right? A projector-based home theater at $7,500 that's got the full surround package, 100-inch screen, is pretty attractive. And the other piece about this is, like, I think a lot of you think twice about putting video in your offers, even though watching TV is one of the things that people do most at home. But the projector is really hard to shop, right? So a flat panel display is easy to shop. It's like, oh, I could get that at Best Buy for blah, blah, blah. But a projector and a screen and the installation, there's not a clear-cut shop on retail point of comparison there. So they've really cleverly thought through the product assortments, the pricing, and the packaging, having these upgrade offers for higher quality that are just incremental dollars spent. So I think Kendall gave me the okay to share more detail on this stuff if you all are interested. But I thought the marketing was extremely clever here, and I think that's the message. This stuff is complicated to present, and if you can find an integrator, and they're not all capable of this, but if you could find an integrator that's got a clever marketing capability and has thought through some of the messages, they can carry a lot of the water for you. This is our friends from Nice now, not Nortec Control, it's Nice now in Elon, and they've done a great job of helping their builder partners set their standards, develop these nested options, and then flow it into customized brochures, other visual marketing, merchandising assets for model homes and what have you, and digital assets as well. This is their package that they put together with the MI Homes that we talked about in Louisville. So we do have a little bit of time for Q&A, which I'd like to go to before we talk about some to-dos. Who has questions for Mike, myself? We have time for you to present your level story. We have a couple of minutes for questions. Go ahead. Oops, Nancy's running to you with a microphone. Don't turn an ankle.
Quick question for Ken. Hey, I was just wondering in terms of the integrator, how they're dealing with customers, is everything a la carte, or are there some more of the packages like we were just reviewing?
So we offered packages, which I think are phenomenal, and our price points moved up over the last few years. But as we got into homes from, let's say, $500,000 to $800,000, like for an example, who's the Sonos home? Who has the Sonos home? Amazon home? By show of hands, nobody has technology in their home?
I have Sonos.
You're at the wrong company.
Don't tell Sonance, but I have Sonos.
So, what happens is when you have a package, and sometimes it's very effective, and typically for ultra luxury homes, but your consumers are coming with products, and so then you're trying to adapt a package to a product, and then it kind of rolls into a la carte. So when you look at our marketing collateral, it's really solution-based, but the appointment changes depending on what the customer owns. And so that changes, really the presentation of how we offer that technology through the integrator. Does that answer your question?
Time for one more quick one. Go over there. At AE Ventures, we have a no sauntering policy that Nancy and I have been trying to, she sets a great example.
So I want to ask if you guys have any insight or updated knowledge on this initiative called Matter. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
We know about it.
Do we know when that's going to
Can I be cynical for a second? It's just been like 35 years of the plug and play standard to win all standards, and I'm just jaded. I'm sure that there's going to be some adoption of this and major players are behind it, but it will probably be one of many standards that will continue to persist. I think if you tried to do it 20 years ago and you had every big player behind it, you might have been able to iron it out as the standard, but we're just too far along and there's too many. I don't know how you feel, you're a manufacturer.
We're definitely working on the platform to be able to adapt and I think it really allows for easy connectivity across multiple platforms. So that's, if you're looking at Bluetooth, Z-Wave, Zigbee, Wi-Fi, all different types of communication, Matter allows a more uniform platform, and so it's definitely something that we're looking at to be able to prepare for, and I think a lot of manufacturers are because of that simplicity. So I think you'll start to see manufacturers talk about it between 6 months and a year from now.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. It's because it's tough, right? Amazon buys a company and then it becomes proprietary, and Apple says, no, you can't use my platform. And so it's tough when you're trying to put those components in the home and then have a relatively seamless solution. But it seems like there's multiple platforms in any home today that are running behind the scenes.
All right, we're running out of time. We need to give Mike his time for a sponsor presentation. I'm just going to go quickly through these to-dos. I think you should, if you don't have an organizational approach to tech, make a decision and be explicit about that, and have some formal outputs and regularity of process and outputs from them. Have a structured merchandise planning process and make sure it's done on time to affect the marketing and the community as a whole. I think a message platform at some level at least is important in terms of getting overall lift and thinking through the marketing and sales assets you need for options. That could be just like the integrator is going to carry all the water, or it could be we're going to carry part of the water, to be determined. We didn't talk about analyzing results, but obviously that's a signature of all good business process. So how do you analyze and
Well, just to
refine?
interject on that, because Mike's slide, and you talked about it, but it's so critical. We talk about friction in the buying process. We talk about pain points. When we look at our own processes and systems, there's no pain points, right? They're perfect. But when you listen to the consumer or your buyer or your customer, the story's a little bit different. And I think that's spot on, is you have to listen to the friction that you're causing that consumer and fix those immediately. That's low-hanging fruit for most organizations.
Okay, with that, let's, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Let's go to Mike for your presentation. You're going to go to the podium,
Yeah,
take
sure.
a position of authority.
Terrific. Well, I'm up here today to be able to, I don't know, oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you really know about Level or about where we started and what brought the product to life. We like to say welcome home. We started with our founders taking a long drive from the Bay Area to Tahoe, and this is his home, or one of his homes, and it was a long drive. He got there, he realized he didn't have his keys, and he was stuck. So we like to put home, your home, the home, before technology. And in a lot of ways, the smart locks of today have failed us. Why? I think some of those things it's obvious. They're challenging to install. Some of those lack in quality. They have poor battery lives. They're unpredictable. Will they work? Will it not work? It's large. It's bulky. It may not feel right on the door, and it doesn't really match the design for that transition from the outside to the inside. So you've got a beautiful door, and you put clunky hardware on there. This is what kind of started back almost 100 years ago as the standard deadbolt, and we have redesigned that deadbolt to be a smart lock, to be innovative, and change the market. Some of you, have seen some of the products. Some of you maybe have taken apart your door and cut through your bolt, right? How many, show of hands, how many have cut through your bolt on your door to see how strong it is? No? Well, we had a influencer actually test our product and wanted, before he started talking about it, he wanted to really break it open and see it. So here's a short video on him doing that.
So fun fact, and it might surprise you as much as it surprised me when I found out about it, most deadbolts are made with sheet metal and are hollow inside, except for like a thin rod down the middle. But I just had to see that like for myself, plus I gotta use power tools. So Level's bolt is made from 440C stainless steel. It's a hardened, high strength, corrosion resistant metal. This metal is like usually found in things like surgical equipment, industrial ball bearings, and other really like high impact places. So that gives it an A rating in security.
So one of the other things you saw there right at the very end, you saw him change the battery, and the battery in our product is right at the end of the tip of the bolt. It's protected around that 440C steel, so it is very strong, very durable, very corrosion resistant. So it's a durable product, it's a reliable product, and it's easy to change the battery on. So we've got basically two core products. The touch product, which is touch sensitive with your mobile device on you, and the bolt, which then turns the standard hardware of your deadbolt into a smart lock. So you can do that with custom hardware. You can do that with your standard deadbolt hardware on the outside and then making the inside smart. We've got a great relationship and partnership with Rocky Mountain Hardware, and here's one of the ways that that comes to life with that custom hardware that's being utilized on beautiful doors and beautiful entryways to then make that hardware set or that door a smart door. The ways that you can utilize your products are in various ways. You've got the touch and you've got the bolt, so you can touch it. You can use key cards on the touch. You can use your app. You can auto lock, auto unlock. You can send passes to people. You can use your voice, and you have that remote capability. We also, that's not on this list, have a keypad and soon to have Apple Home keys. So as Ken was touching on, we have, basically we support Apple, Google, and Alexa. On the Bolt product, we've got the mobile app that you can use. You have auto lock, auto unlock. You can send passes. You can use your voice and your remote as well. So why Level? Definitely come by and have a conversation with me, but I can talk about more reasons why that specifically fit your needs. But it's a new take on smart lock. We're innovative. We're changing the market. We're the invisible smart lock. We don't look big and bulky on the door, whether you're using the hidden product, which is the Bolt with existing hardware, or you're using the touch product, which is a very simple, elegant way to be able to make your door smart. It's new ways to access your home. It meets the security and durability that you need, that your home buyers need as well. And it's also very secure in its nature with the encryption.